Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathashala. I am Professor R.Thiagarajan, the head of the Department of Sanskrit, Presidency College, Chennai. I am going to give you some important information about history and development of poetics. We have already seen in the previous classes how the poetics developed, the origin of poetics, and we have been discussing about the Alankara and the Alankara school, Guna school of Dandin, then Riti school of Vamana, then Anandavardhana's Dhwani theory, how he developed it and how he was supported by Abhinavabharati and some more things. Today we are going to continue the same topic because there are so many authors who have contributed a lot to Sanskrit poetics after Anandavardhana too. Thus, in the previous module, we had 3 or 4 keywords. It is Ritiratma Kavyasya of Vamana, and then Sabdartho Kavyam, then Kavehe Karma Kavyam, and then Kavyasya Atma Dhwanihi, and ultimately we said the Rasadhvani is important, and then the culmination point happened to be Rasatmakam Kavyam. Today we are going to learn about Vakrokti, then to know the importance of Kavyam Mimamsa, and then we are going to know about anti-Dhwani school, and then to know the later writers on Alankara school and how the Poetics school at last attained decadence. In this series of the authors on poetics, we are going to see Abhinavabharati and Dasarupaka, the works by Abhinavagupta and Dhananjaya. Abhinavabharati is an excellent work of the 10th century. This commentary is a major analysis on all matters discussed in Bharata's treatise. During this period, another important work on drama, Dasarupaka, was composed by Dhananjaya, which deals with various forms of Sanskrit drama. In the earlier modules, we learned that Rupaka refers not only to Alankara but also to a drama. Here the very title of Dasarupaka itself denotes that it talks about 10 types of dramas. Dasarupaka. There are varieties of dramas. Some of them happen to be one-act plays, then Natakam, Prakaranam. So Nataka, Prakarana, Natika, Dima. Like that you got a lot of Bana. Such of the dramas are also available, and Dhananjaya gives his definition of those dramas, how they are to be, how the characters should speak, what are all the characteristics of the typical dramas, etc. Then the Natya Shastra and the above mentioned 2 treatises are considered to be the greatest contribution to drama and dramatic theory. Next comes, there is a work called Kavya Kautuka. Kautuka means the curiosity. Kavya Kautuka, to know how a poetry has to be composed, a kavya, a literature has to be composed. So that has been stated in that work written by Bhatta Dauta, which is another important work belonging to the 10th century AD. This work is not available now, it is lost, and its existence is attested only by the reference in later works, such as Abhinavabharati and Auchitya Vichara Charcha of Kshemendra. Next, we come across the greatest rhetorician who has written the work called Kavya-mimamsa. He is popularly called as Yayavariya Rajasekara, who belongs to 10th century AD. In the history of poetics, he also deserves special mention. This is not a work composed with the intention of subscribing to a particular poetic theory, like others who have written theories on that. He has only collected certain information from various poetics and has presented them in his own way. Though such concepts like rasa and riti are discussed here, in some other places also in the work, this work does not attempt to build any critique of poetry. Consequently, this does not take the usual form of treatise on poetic theory. However, this work discusses a variety of subjects which have direct bearing on poetry, and this supplies a wealth of valuable information. In that, Kavya-mimamsa itself, you have got lot of information, especially with regard to the poetic conventions, Kavi Samaya, etc., which are to be learnt necessarily by any poet. The poetic conventions, just such as the Chakora bird drinking the rays of the moon, Chakravaka bird drinking the water only at a particular time, and the drops of water from the rain. And then with regard to other types of samayas, Kavi Samaya, it's the poetic conventions. We say, for example, Hamsa. Hamsa takes when the water and the milk has been mixed and kept, it is said that the Hamsa, the swan, drinks only the milk. Such conventions are also applied on the poetry. So such informations are being provided in the work called Kavya-mimamsa. Next, we come across Vakrokti Jivita. This is also belonging to anti-Dhuni school. See, this period, 11th century, another period of great significance in the history of Sanskrit poetics. Many important works were written, and at least two main theories of poetry sprang up during this period. This may be considered a period in which emphasis was more on poetry than on drama. One of the outstanding works belonging to this century is Vakrokti Jivita of Kuntaka. The very title itself refers to the twisting expression, Vakrokti Jivita. That is, the life is there only when the poet expresses in a twisting way. So when all other poets were talking about Atma, the soul of poetry, he says it is the life of poetry, Vakrokti Jivita. This treatise is particular significance because it postulates the Vakrokti school of Sanskrit poetics. This particular theory was also an attempt to demolish the teachings of the Dhuni theories and to explain poetry by an extended concept of Vakrokti borrowed from the theories of world. So even in those days prior to Kuntaka, people were talking about the poetic expressions which are to be given in a novel way, and it should not be just like a sentence, ordinary sentence. But Kuntaka took this particular point and then elaborated it, and then he said it is a twisting way of expression. While he is telling, he wanted to just say there is nothing like suggestion and all. So the twisting itself is so beautiful, that is the life of poetry, not Dhvani. So it is his argument. So it is the old school of thought only. Next, we have got another anti-school, anti-Dhvani school called Vyakti-Viveka by Mahimabhatta. He is also applauded as a good theorist belonging to the 11th century who attempted to contradict the progressive Dhvani theory because perhaps he didn't relish the popularity of Anandavardhana at the time, while he focused on Dhvani and then gained the name and also applause from other scholars. So he wrote the work called Vyakti Viveka. So Vyakti means Vyangya. So the Vyakti Viveka, in the very title itself, he is trying to say what is that intelligence found in suggestion. Herein, his attempt was to establish that there was no separate function called Dhvani in poetry, and what Dhvani theorists postulated as the novel function of suggestion was none other than the logical process of inference. He strove to build a critique of poetry based on this concept of logical inference and took great pains to prove that what the Dhvani theorists considered as cases of suggestion were mere instances of inference. Mahimabhatta showed that this was a function not confined to poetry alone. This theory of Mahimabhatta is known in Sanskrit as Anumitivada. See, the argument based on Anumana. That's why it is Anumitivada. However, as this was not a comprehensive analysis of poetry, but merely an attempt to nullify the Dhvani theory, this theory does not merit recognition as a separate school of Sanskrit poetics. In his thesis, Mahimabhatta gained no support from any subsequent author, and in itself it was not capable of overriding the Dhvani theory. However, Vyakti Viveka remains a monument to its author's aggressive logical argument. Next, we come across an excellent work called Sringaraprakasa of Bhoja. He was a king of Dara, an excellent scholar during 11th century AD. His work Sringaraprakasa, which means the enlightening or the brightening of Sringara, the erotic rasa, was a luminous work dealing with all known concepts of poetic theory. Bhoja is also noted for his view that there is only one rasa in literature, and that is Sringara. Sringara eva madhuraha rasa. Paraprahladanatvat. Because it is only giving a joy or pleasure to others. Apart from this, Bhoja is also credited with another work entitled Saraswati Kantabharana. Very title suggests that it is the decoration or the alankara for Saraswati. Another work called Sringaratalaka was attributed to Rudrabhatta, which is an investigating kavya with an emphasis on rasa, particularly Sringara. Now we come across another luminary in Sanskrit poetics by name Kshemendra. The important writer Kshemendra was a Kashmirian and he belonged to 11th century AD. He was a student of Abhinavabharati, the very rasika or the fan of Anandavardhana. He was the author of 3 works, namely Auchitya Vichara Charcha, Suvritta Tilaka and Kavi Kantabharana. Out of these, Auchitya Vichara Charcha deserves special mention because of the exposition of the concept of Auchitya contained therein. Auchitya means propriety. Charcha means argument, just a deep understanding or thought or result. On what? Auchitya Vichara. Auchitya Vichara means whether it is appropriate at this particular place, whether the rasa is applied appropriately, whether the wordings are used appropriately, is it the select choice to the occasion. All these things are being researched and he has written it. Of course, it is a small work, but yet more interesting, innovative, deserving special mention. The next one, that is Auchitya Vichara Charcha itself, we will have to say that this particular concept of Auchitya has been already expounded by Dhvanikara, Anandavardhana. And Kshemendra also borrows this Dhvani concept, Auchitya concept, and he builds his own poetic criticism, calling it to be the life of poetry. So, without Auchitya, even other schools of thought cannot substantiate their arguments. Next, we find in the Sanskrit poetics a fusion period of poetic theories. So many theories, and especially there are about 8 theories of poetics, which we are going to see later. And all these theories got together, got mixed up, because one could not survive sacrificing the other. So all put together, there arose a sort of a fusion, and that was a period when Kshemendra and others, Mammata and others, came to the picture of Sanskrit poetics. Kshemendra's work marks the end of creative phase in this Shastra. Henceforth, the attempt of the thinkers on poetics was to organize and systematize the theories so far propounded into comprehensive synthetic theory of poetry. Consequently, the centuries following Kshemendra can be called the period of fusion in Sanskrit poetic theory. Now comes Mammata, latest luminary in Sanskrit poetics, who wrote Vidya-mitra. The brightest luminary in this phase of Shastra was Mammata, that is during 11th century AD. Mammata was a staunch follower of Dhvani school, and his critique of poetry is founded on the basis of this theory. Mammata's work takes the form of a handbook on the subject with all the concepts and theories woven into one organic and compact whole. This treatise occupies an outstanding position in the history of Sanskrit poetics because of its intelligent interpretation and synthesis of the theories and the great literary acumen exhibited therein. Vidya-mitra is a profound work, and many were the comment that subsequent writers composed to elucidate the teachings contained therein. Although Mammata did not seek to expound any novel theory, his is undoubtedly a very intelligent and comprehensive study in Sanskrit aesthetics. Now, Mammata is followed by Hemachandra, Bhagbhata, and Ruiyaka. They are also the authors of Sanskrit poetics. Kavyanusasana is the work of Hemachandra, who is believed to have flourished at the end of the 11th or the beginning of the 12th century. It can be reckoned as another attempt at compiling a compact handbook of the Shastra based on existing knowledge. Another writer contemporaneous with Hemachandra and who deserves mention is Vagbhata, the author of Vagbhata Alankara. This too is a work designed to traverse the entire field of poetic theory. It was in the 12th century that Ruiyaka composed his treatise Alankara Sarvasva, which is devoted to a study of poetic figures. He was also the author of Nataka Mimamsa, a treatise on dramaturgy. Now comes Natya Darpana, Bhava Prakasa. During the 12th, 13th and 14th centuries, attention was focused on drama and dramatic theory. Natya Darpana of Ramachandra and Gunachandra, that is 12th century AD, and Bhava Prakasha of Saradatanaya, 13th century, are two of the more important works on drama and rasa which deserve special mention. Bhava Prakasha is of interest to students of poetic theory due to its exposition of the rasa concept. However, their mission was to expound and clarify the existing teachings, and hence their original contribution to critical theory is meager. Along with these, mention may be made of Nataka Lakshana Ratnakosha by Sagaranandin, who belonged to 13th century, and Nataka Paribhasha of Singhabhupala, 14th century, two other works on dramatic theory. Then comes Chandraloka and Sahitya Darpana. Chandraloka of Jayadeva, composed in about 13th century, was another manual designed to cover the entire field of Sanskrit poetics. However, It is the fifth chapter on Alankara in this book, that is fifth Mayuka, that is better known among scholars. By far, a much more important work in the tradition of comprehensive manuals on the Shastra is Sahitya Darpana of Vishwanatha, composed in the 14th century. This work was compiled in the same lines as Mammata's, but a point worthy of note is that it deals with the drama also in addition to poetry. He too, on the whole, like Mammata, contributes to the Dhwani theory but lays more emphasis on rasa due to its intelligent interpretation of material and the literary acumen displayed. This may be called the second monumental treatise belonging to the period of synthesis. Now, the decadence of poetic theory. In the centuries that followed, Sanskrit poetic theory entered its period of decadence, and during the 15th and the 16th centuries, the work that were written were of secondary importance. It is interesting to note that this period sees a revival of interest in Alankara concept. A prolific writer of this period is Bhanudatta, belonging to 15th century AD, who composed two works, the concept of rasa, namely Rasamanjari, dealing more with Nayaka Nayikas, and Sringara and Rasatarangini, dealing with the concept of rasa in general. He is also credited with Alankara Tilaka, a general work on poetics. Among other works composed during this period, mention may be made to Ujjvala Neelamani of Rupa Goswami, belong to 16th century. It is a treatise on poetics with a special emphasis on Bhakti Rasa. Alankara Kaustuba of Kavikarnapura, written during 16th century, a work dealing with all concepts of poetry following Kavya Prakasa. Alankara Shekhara of Kesava Mishra, written during 16th century, another treatise covering the entire field of poetics, and Rasa Pradipa of Prabhakara on the concept of rasa. Then Appaya Dikshita, who belonged to the end of the 16th century, is credited with the authorship of three treatises, namely Vrittivartika, Kuvalayananda and Chitramimamsa. Of them, Kuvalayananda is a treatise on poetic figures and takes the form of a commentary on the chapter on poetic figures found in Chandraloka of Jayadeva. The other two works are incomplete. Then Rasa Gangadhara. Jagannatha Pandita is the author of the work called Jagannatha Pandita. He is the last great luminary in the firmament of Sanskrit poetics. He is also called as Pandita Raja during 17th century. In the tradition of Kavya Prakasa and Sahitya Darpana, this Rasa Gangadhara too deals with the entire field of poetics and is an attempt to bring within the covers of a single volume a complete manual of poetic theory. A specific feature in this work is the influence of logical reasoning on the ideas of the author, who attempts to condition his critical concepts by logical principles. The language employed in the work is also reminiscent of Sanskrit works on logic. With Jagannatha Pandita, the line of eminent writers on Sanskrit poetic theory draws to a close. Even though there appeared other minor treatises like Natya Pradipa of Sundara Mishra of 17th century dramaturgy, and Alankara Kaustuba of Vishweshwara during 18th century, a treatise on poetic figures, these works were of meager importance and contained no original thinking. They merely reflect the decline that has set in this field of study. Hence, it can be safely concluded that the progress of Sanskrit literary theory had come to a definite stop after Jagannatha Pandita. Consequently, it is possible to conclude the survey of the history of Sanskrit poetics with the close or the 17th century AD. Thus, in this module, we have seen many authors who were original contributors to Poetics. Some of them happen to be the followers or imitators. Some of them happen to be the compilers of the poetic theories. So, we have completely seen with these three modules the entire gamut of Sanskrit poetics and Sanskrit poetics authors, poetical authors. So, now we have an overall idea about what is aesthetics, what is Alankara Shastra, and what are the systems followed in the Alankara Shastra, what are the theories that have been invented by Alankarikas, and how long the development of poetics went on, and where it stammered and stopped, the original thinking stopped. So, this knowledge itself will give us an idea to proceed further with the original text wherein their real arguments could be gauged. Thank you.